Recently, I read an article in which Jeff Bezos shared his 10 ways of minimizing regret in our lives. And something that I found really useful in the article was this quote. Research shows we more often regret things we didn't do than the things we did, even if the things we did turned out badly. Makes sense. With time and effort, you can fix almost any mistake, but you can't go back and do the things you dreamed of doing, but didn't. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Darren, a first year medical student studying at Monash University here in Melbourne, Australia. So the quote I shared, I think is very applicable for life, but also for students. And I think that speaks to the idea that I've been pushing a lot and I used a lot, which is to sort of go ahead in your minds into the future and then think about what you could do now that your future self will enjoy and will reap the benefits of and will be very proud of. So for a lot of you guys watching, that's probably your VCE exams, your ATAR. That's a big part of whether you'll be happy or not at the end of the year. And I think that should guide you as to what you should do now. So for me personally, I was aiming for the best possible marks I could get in every subject and the overall ATAR as well. And I was willing to sacrifice a lot for that. So my sport, my extracurriculars, I was fine with, not going and sacrificing and saying no. And I knew that at the end of the year, even though I didn't attend as many of those events, but if I did get the best score, I wouldn't have any regrets about not going to those events. For other people, they might not be aiming for those extremely high marks, or you might just sort of want a prereq and that's enough for you to get into your course. There's no need to get an extremely high score. And in that case, you might like more social events, like going out with your friends, parties, 18ths, and more extracurriculars. And I think that's fine as well, but you just have to be very purposeful with what you want throughout this year. You don't want to get to the end of the year and think to yourself, all right, I spent so much time studying. My last year of school was just all in the books. I should have gone out more with my friends, should have gone to more 18th parties and celebrated with them. But at the same time, you also don't want to think, I spent way too much time out. I didn't study hard enough and the end result wasn't what I desired. So the quote about regret, which I just shared, I think really speaks to going into the future and thinking about what you should be doing now to achieve the best possible result for yourself, and really giving voice to those steps and those goals will really help you not have any regrets at the end of the year and in the future. For today's video, I wanted to have a continuation of my ATAR reaction, which if you haven't seen was my 100 subscriber special video, and it's linked up here. I know a lot of people in these videos go through their study scores and go through their specific subjects, so I thought I'd do that as well. I give you guys some insight into how I felt at the time before I forget how I felt. And by the way, we are inching closer and closer to that 500 subscriber mark, so thank you guys very much. Once again, I'm doing a Q&A then, so leave any questions you have in the comments below. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the video, and enjoy watching me as I relive my ATAR opening day. I'll talk about the subjects in the order that they are on your screen right now. So I split the feelings into two parts, one sort of post-exam and two when I actually saw the study score. Post-exam, I didn't have any big hiccups. I thought the text response topics were a bit weird, so I hoped I tackled it correctly. But I finished all my writing pieces and nothing really went badly, and I was hoping I could get a 50. I was ranked 2 and I did well in my practice exams. And my school, Scotch College, gets a couple each year, so I was hoping that I would get that 50 study score. When I saw it on the day, I was extremely happy. Because 50s are so hard to come by, and I just really wanted at least one. It was my goal for a lot of subjects, but it is incredibly hard to hit. And so I was really happy when I saw it. Also, I had a great teacher and a great classroom environment. This is a subject that my teacher invested a lot of time into helping me with, and I also invested a lot of time into doing well. And so it was a really lovely conclusion through the ups and downs of the year, through the vicissitudes of the year. And it was just a really lovely finish, and I felt like a real sense of accomplishment when I saw that study score on the day. With the exam results, I got 20 for my comparative, 20 for my text response, and 17 for my analysing and presenting arguments. So some examiner must have given me an 8. That was pretty surprising. I was aiming for 20 in each section, but of course, you don't really know. Sometimes it's a bit hard to differentiate between a 9 and a 10. Maybe one slip up just bumps you down to a 9. I was happy that my other two sections, my first two sections, were quite clutch and got me to that 20 mark. And I was a bit weirded out that I got a 17 for APA, because honestly, at the end of the exam, I thought the analysing and presenting arguments was going to be my best section, because I wrote a lot for it and it was good content as well. But I was quite surprised, but I guess that's just the way that English works, and yeah, I'm not going to complain. Next up, we have Latin. Now, Latin is a subject that I was heavily invested in. We had the same teacher, same class since I joined in year 10, and it was just a real sense of, like bonding. Like, it's a really tight-knit unit. We all wanted each other to do well. Our teacher was phenomenal. So probably the best Latin teacher in the state. And yeah, so we all really wanted to do well, and it's quite competitive between schools as well, because not many schools do Latin. So it's a sort of like a Scotch pride thing as well. And so after the exam, there was some controversy about a 2-mark question, which like went a bit left and right. Emailed the teacher, emailed head of like the examiners, and we weren't really sure what was going on there. But apart from that, I was quite happy with how I did. The translation part, I could translate everything. There was no sentence where I kind of guessed. The like comprehension poetry questions all went well. The essay went well. I was hoping for a high 40s or even a 50, and I ended up getting 45. So in the moment, like I'm gonna be real with you guys, I was a little bit disappointed because I wanted that high 40s score. Like looking after a while, I was happy with 45. I was completely happy with 45 because it scales to 54. It's an incredible score in its own right, and not many people get like even above 40 in Latin. But because of how I did in the like practice exams and my ability and how I thought I went on the actual exam, I thought I would get a bit higher than that. But like now, that was only momentary. Afterwards, I was extremely happy with my score. And I think what cost me was the essay. So I did extremely well in the translation, like really well in the other 2 comprehension poetry parts. For some reason, my essay, I just lost some marks. I thought it was a really good essay. Yeah, so, but oh well, that's life. And so 45, really happy with that score. Scaled well, hoping with my ATAR. And like looking back, it was, a really enjoyable subject. And it was great that I was able to achieve the score that I did in the end. Looking back, it was just a phenomenal journey. Picking up Latin even, the best decision I've made. And that classroom cohesiveness and that feeling in that classroom was just different to any other classes I had. Because we only had one class for the subject, the same people in that class from year 10 to year 12, and the same teacher for those 3 years as well. And it was just incredible. In other subjects, you might have a bit of toxicity, you might have a lot of competitiveness, but in this subject it was all really healthy. Everyone wanted to help each other out. The competitiveness was natural, and it was like we all wanted to push each other to do better, and we had a lot of laughs, and it was just a wonderful time. And I was just really happy I could achieve the score that I did to sort of cap off the wonderful journey that it was. So the next subject is specialist maths. After the exam, I knew I got some things wrong that like I shouldn't have. I think the exam was fairly straightforward. So this was sort of the exam that tormented me as well. Like even a couple of days after all my exams finished, I would keep thinking about it, which was not the best thing to do. Like I'd go to sleep and I'd be thinking about the exam and thinking about the work solutions. So I didn't check the entirety of the work solutions. I checked parts of it, and I knew I got some wrong. And considering that this was an easy exam that I like knew I could do all the questions, it was a bit frustrating. So when I saw, but like, even so, I was expecting a score, like I wouldn't get 50, but hopefully like a 48, 47. And so I was a bit surprised and a bit shocked when the 44 popped up at me. It was significantly worse than I thought I'd do. And like, it was all on me. I had a phenomenal tutor, like I did well in my SACs. My ranking was, I was ranked 2, so that was like fine. It was all on me in the exams. I choked. And I don't know why, but for the math subjects, I just did worse than I did in my other subjects. For some reason, like I think maybe I'm biased, but my ability was pretty much equal in all the subjects. But for some reason, for maths, I just did worse than I did in the other ones. Actually, when I think about it, I think it's because math subjects, you kind of have a right or a wrong answer. Whereas with English, I can kind of like just write well and flow better. Whereas with maths, like you get it wrong, you get it wrong. And I think for some reason that just affected me, and I didn't do well as I should have. So I was a bit disappointed in my Spesh. That was probably the one major blemish on my sort of ATAR. But like in the grand scheme of things with my other study scores, with my ATAR, like I don't mind too much. It's just a bit annoying, a bit frustrating, but like it's rare that anyone's going to end up with 100% of what they're happy with at the end of the year. So next up we have Chinese second language. Now this is a subject I took in year 11 alongside methods. And the methods exam was a couple of weeks before the Chinese exam. So after the Chinese exam, I thought I did well. The exam was a bit weird. The translation in particular was quite hard, but coming out I realized it was pretty hard for everyone because some of the phrases we couldn't actually find in the dictionary. And the writing piece, I had to write something that I've never actually produced before. I had to pull some parts from my general convo, but I think I stringed it decently well. I remembered what I had written down, so I typed it after the exam and I sent it to my teacher, my Chinese school teacher, and she said it was fine. So yeah, I was decently okay with that. So when I saw the actual study score, 45, I was more distracted on that day by my methods study score, which was significantly worse than what I was aiming for. And like, I knew I didn't do that well. So it was kind of just a confirmation of that. Chinese was fine. Like, once again, momentarily I was upset. In the long term, it scaled to 51, which was like good. Like none of the other subjects, like methods was never going to scale above that. And 51 is like a solid study score to have in your top 4. The main thing that bugged me was that I knew I could do better. So how I was performing practice exams, how good my oral is, and my oral like my oral was honestly like extremely good. Like I was looking back, I was very impressed at my oral when I was in year 11. And so with my tutors, my Chinese school teacher, my Chinese teacher at school, everyone was sort of like expecting a pretty high score from me. And 45 was sort of the lower range of the scores that they were expecting. And even when I bumped into my Chinese teacher, like an old Chinese teacher I had like ages ago, recently, he even said that my score should have been like a couple notches above. But once again, that disappointment was sort of momentary. Looking back, 45 is a fine score to have. It scales to 51, which is like a really good addition to my top 4 ATAR wise. And looking back, I think, as I mentioned in some other videos, I didn't have the healthiest mentality in year 11. I was a bit over-competitive and sort of shut off other people a bit. I didn't really work with others. And I was a bit in my own head too much when preparing for the Chinese exam, which I thought wasn't healthy. And I think in a way, it was good that I didn't do like particularly well, because if I did well, I might have thought that mentality was the good one to take in year 12. Whereas since I didn't do that well, I could really reflect on what went wrong and how I can do better for the next year. So the first of my bottom 2 subjects is English language. Now this is a subject that I picked up in year 12 at the behest of my specialist maths tutor, long story. And I really enjoyed it and I was doing well because I think I could really grasp the crux of the subject and really know what I had to do to do better. For things like the analytical commentary, the essays, I had like a really rigorous structure and I knew how to construct things which sounded good and were structurally correct and hit all the points that the teacher wanted to hit. And I was performing very well in SACs. I think I was rank 1 for a bit and then I ended up at rank 2. And I did really well in my practice exams as well. So after the exam, I didn't do as well as I did in my practice exams. I was doing phenomenally in my practice exams. After the actual exam, I realized that I sort of misunderstood some parts of the short answer. And I always knew if there was something that had to let me down, it was going to be the short answer. I knew my AC, my essay, I could write well, I could produce good pieces of writing, but if I had to get something that was like objectively wrong, it would be in the short answer section. And I realized I did some mistakes. I wasn't too sure whether they were going to become like, how harshly they were going to be marked, whether I was going to lose all the marks or whatever. And I didn't really concern myself with that afterwards. I sort of focused on my next exam. But yeah, I was a bit concerned that I wouldn't get like an extremely high study score. So when I saw the result, I was very happy with 49, mainly because I didn't think I did that well. Like I did a few calculations of what I would get in the exam in my marks, and I was like a bit optimistic because you try and make yourself feel better, and I could hit high marks, but I was still surprised when I got it in the end. 49 was a really good score, and looking at my exam, I didn't lose that many marks in short answer. I only lost 2 marks, so I got 13, and then I got 14 out of 15 for the analytical commentary and 14 out of 15 for the essay. Probably like, I think my analytical commentary was phenomenal, probably should have gotten a 15 there, but then short answer, I didn't lose as many marks as I thought, so I guess it kind of balances out. So English language, I was very happy with how I did. It was a very solid addition in my bottom 2, and I was just glad that in a subject that I just joined, and once again, it was a really nice classroom environment, a really lovely teacher, and the class just accepted me and welcomed me really well, and I was with a couple of my friends who I wasn't with in other subjects, and so yeah, it was a great way to cap off the year. Also, I considered English language my most relaxing class because there's not a ton of content to go through. Rather, you work on, or you learn the structures and the concepts and the meta language, and you just continuously apply them. So in class, we would dissect different articles and pieces of writing. We would talk about our answers, we'd have group discussions, we'd have Kahoots, and it was just a really good class for me to relax in when compared to the stresses of year 12 and of other subjects. Finally, we have methods. Okay, so methods. I repeated methods in year 12, and I guess I'll go through how I felt in year 11 and in year 12. So in year 11, I had a lot of pressure on myself. I wanted to get 50 and like this massive feeling of wanting to get a 50. And after the exam, I knew I stuffed up. Like I checked the answers and I knew there were problems. And I didn't do as well as I hoped. And that really made me reflect upon the year and what I did wrong, what was wrong with my mentality, what was wrong with my approach, so that I can improve it for the next year. And so when I repeated methods in year 12, I ended up with the same study score, but like in that regard, I don't have any regrets. Like a lot of people have asked me, what happens if you do worse? What happens if you get the same study score? And I didn't really mind. Like I said a lot of the time, in the grand scheme of things, at the end of the year, when I open my ATAR results, methods won't be the subject that I'm like gasping over. And it was a phenomenal class in year 12 with a very bright group of like year 11, so they mix year 11s and year 12s in this class. I had a really intelligent teacher who was very diligent towards looking after each student. And in the end, our class produced 5 50s, which is like extraordinary. And I really enjoyed the classroom environment. I thought it was nice being sort of the older person in the room rather than like being the year 11. And it was just nice seeing how the year 11s approached VCE. It was a very refreshing class. And in year 12, I think I just had a much healthier mindset. I just didn't spend that much time on methods because of my other subjects, which is probably why I ended up with the same study score. But really liked that classroom environment. And in the end, it scaled to a 49, which was good for my bottom 2. And yeah, no complaints there. Hold on, we're not done just yet. Some of you may know that a prerequisite for medicine is to study chemistry. And yes, I did study chemistry, and the reason it's not shown on your screen right now is because it was my 7th subject, and so it didn't actually contribute to my ATAR. So I scored a 44 raw in chemistry. I'm not too sure what it scaled to. I think it scales like 2 or 3. So after the exam, I wasn't like extremely well prepared for chemistry, mainly because I knew that it wasn't going to be my top 6 because of the high scaling of my top 4 subjects, and my bottom 2 subjects I was like very proficient in and very confident in that I could do well. And so with chemistry, after the exam, there were some questions I couldn't answer, which is like expected because I wasn't 100% prepared, and I couldn't really gauge how well I did. But it was my last exam as well, so after that I just kind of went on holiday mode. So when I saw the 44 study score, I was like pretty happy because it's in the 40s and it was above the cutoff for medicine. And also I had a phenomenal teacher in chemistry. He is extremely diligent, and he would like go to any end to explain things to students and spend a lot of his time explaining. He was really patient and extremely knowledgeable. And so I wanted to do like at least decently for him. I had him in year 11 as well, and he's like an extremely caring person and someone who was like very supportive of me throughout my VC journey. So 44, looking back, I could have done better if I utilized my time between my second last exam in chemistry a bit better. And I think it's definitely possible for you to achieve the same study scores as me in other subjects and do better than me in chemistry if you just manage your time more efficiently. So don't think like you have to sacrifice study scores in your 7th subject, because it's always good to do well. But like on the day, I wasn't too concerned. I was okay with the 44. Thank you guys for tuning into today's video. I hope you've gained some insight into how I felt on ATAR results day. These are my own feelings, so please don't let it dictate or affect how you should feel about your particular subjects or your particular study scores. I just thought it'd be cool to share how I felt before I even forget how I felt. Please leave any comments once again in the comments box below, any questions that you might have. If you haven't already, please like, comment and subscribe so we can get to that 500 subscriber mark. And good luck for all your SACs or your assessments, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.